the network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
That was nearly 24 hours ago, and we should note that The Late Show is being canceled after 30 years. So the question is still out there without real answers. Was it really all about money, as the company says, or could presidential politics, particularly President Trump's politics, have played a role here? Now, President Trump himself posted that he, quote, absolutely loves that show hosted by Stephen Colbert. Loves that it was canceled, I should say, while also hitting the show for its ratings. Ratings which have, we should note, they're pretty high. I think the highest of any of the late night hosts. And it all comes 2 weeks after CBS's parent company, Paramount, agreed to pay President Trump $16 million to settle a 60 Minutes lawsuit amid a merger. Colbert criticized that just 2 days before he was informed about his cancellation.
Now, I believe that this kind of complicated financial settlement with a sitting government official has a technical name in legal circles. It's big fat bribe. Because this all comes as Paramount's owners are trying to get the Trump administration to approve the sale of our network to a new owner, Skydance.
Now, CBS, again, says the decision was purely financial. And for years, there has been a warning, lots of warning signs about late night's decline. Ratings, generally speaking, have begun to shrink as the way that people consume television has changed a lot. Ad revenue has declined 50% over the last 6 years. Brian Stelter joins our panel, and I'm going to start with you, Brian. What more are you learning? I know you've been talking to people inside CBS and in and around CBS all day.
And even on background, even when you grant these sources anonymity to speak more candidly, they insist this really was financial. At least the financials are a pretext. There is also, though, a question about whether the future owners of CBS maybe wanted Colbert out of the picture. Now, one of the arguments I've heard today, Deanna, is, hey, if this was politically motivated, we wouldn't be leaving Colbert on the air for 10 more months. And that's an interesting point. You know, Colbert's contract does not end until May. The Late Show will not end until next May. So Colbert will have 10 more months to roast President Trump and members of the Trump administration. That said, however, this does, I think today, as people process this, you can sense there's a little bit of a chilling effect or concern about a chilling effect. The Writers Guild of America, which represents writers who work on the show, they are out with a pretty bold statement this afternoon calling on the New York State Attorney General to investigate the matter. Here's a part of the statement. Quote, given Paramount's recent capitulation to President Trump in the CBS News lawsuit, the Writers Guild has significant concerns that the Late Show's cancellation is a bribe, sacrificing free speech to curry favor with the Trump administration as the company looks for merger approval. I had a source close to Colbert say to me today that this feels like a situation where Colbert and The Late Show are a casualty of that pending merger. And there's a broader concern at play here that I think folks all around the world can relate to. A country where you can't lampoon a sitting president is not a free country. A country where you can't publish editorial cartoons or have late night monologues or have satires about the president is not a democratic country. Of course, we're not there. We're not there at all right now. There are lots and lots of figures who are famous for mocking and deriding President Trump. But the idea that Colbert might be taken off the air, that his voice might be silenced, it certainly is creating a little bit of a chill in the air today, Dana.
Yeah. All right, Brian, thank you. Don't go far. Ron Brownstein, you spend most of your time in Los Angeles. You certainly have a sense of the way that, frankly, there is a collision coming, and we've seen it in several examples of big media companies. We're talking about Paramount right now. We saw Meta settle, Disney, ABC, and even Twitter and X. Well, X settled, but it was because of allegations when it was Twitter.
Whatever else you can say about Donald Trump, he is a keen student of human weakness. He takes the measure of institutions, and he is watching big institutions buckle to his determination to transform the federal government, every asset it has, into a mechanism for rewarding his friends and punishing his enemies. It's what I was saying before. This is just another manifestation of it. That tweet today, that dancing on the grave tweet, he feels utterly unbound. He does not feel there is an effective pushback coming from any direction, from Congress, the courts, Democrats. Some institutions have fought him. Many more, whether it's universities or law firms or these big media organizations, have conceded to him. And I think he feels that he can be unimaginably overt in doing things. I had a conversation with John Dean a few months ago. He was talking about how Nixon, the enemies list, was a deeply held secret. They felt that if it got out that they were trying to punish their enemies, it would be devastating and he would be embarrassed by it. That tweet today, to me, again, like the tweet about his supporters that I talked about earlier, is so indicative of a mindset that there are no boundaries on me. And institutions, too many of them, rather than collecting and trying to resist this together, are trying to cut their own deal, and that simply does not work.
Mo?
I don't disagree with any of that. Look, Paramount says this has nothing to do, that this is purely a financial decision, has nothing to do with politics. Those two things are clearly not mutually exclusive. And the fact that they see how he has targeted big media companies. I mean, in his first term, he was going after NBC, threatening to pull their license, which he doesn't have the ability to do, but threatening to pull their license and take NBC off the air. Paramount has a huge dog in this, right? They are trying to get this incredibly lucrative merger done. They can either buckle to him and try to grease those wheels a little bit, or they can stand up against him and know that he could, go after them.
Or it could be he's not funny. Colbert, having disdain for the American president and his supporters, is not a profit-making venture, which it's proven so, and you get canceled like every other show when you hit the ratings. I think this is an example for.
But they're not just canceling him; they're canceling the show. They're not replacing him.
Yeah, well, late night is changing. That's a different thing. You've seen the revenue go down. But at the end of the day, having disdain, if you're an entertainer and you have disdain for half the country, you're not going to have an economic successful model.
So and that's especially the primetime lineup over at Fox News, right? Gutfield over there, who has disdain for the other half of the country. And there's not that same kind of going after him, right?
We'll see. But he's literally for 4 years had disdain for the American people, and he's being rewarded by them not tuning in. This is what happens when you behave.
We got to sneak in a break.
What questions do you have about this? The timing, the motivation, as CBS is saying, this was purely a business decision.
Yes, as you noted, the timing of it is suspicious. Also, what we've seen in other late night shows is at least some attempt to figure out a cheaper way to do the show. No one is disputing that viewership is down for late night TV shows across the board, that they're making less money or losing money after years of declining ratings. But to announce the cancellation of the top-rated late night show without a sense that they made any effort to try and streamline it. We've seen other shows like Late Night with Seth Meyers, for example, let go of their live band in an effort to reduce costs, or streamline staff as an effort to reduce costs, or perhaps Colbert himself could have taken a pay cut. But it doesn't seem that any of that was considered. And we're also, of course, in the backdrop, hearing about this effort by Paramount to be sold to Skydance Media. They need federal approval for that. And of course, there's always a concern that they're trying to curry favor with the Trump administration, which does not like the way Colbert has been a strident and consistent critic of Donald Trump and his administration versus his first administration and now his second.